Did Warner Brothers really make a mistake by releasing this not really in many theaters? Let's talk about it. Well, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Juror number 2, the latest film from iconic director Clint Eastwood. Okay, so in his 30th film he's directed this year or in the last 10 years, Clint Eastwood is back with a new film. One that has garnered no love from Warner Brothers because they released it in 40 theaters and they're going to eventually put it on streaming. It's a movie that it stars Nicholas Hoult as a juror who may or may not be involved or have some kind of personal situation that deals with this murder case where this guy is accused of killing his girlfriend. And in the process, he is put on the jury, and in order to keep the possibility that he may be involved a secret, he starts to sway the judges. We have people like, of course, J.K. Simmons in this particular jury, and so on and so forth, who plays a detective. But we also, on the prosecution side, we have this very determined, wants to become, head DA and stuff like that, who's played by Toni Collette, who's, of course, prosecuting the case. We, of course, have Chris Messina, who is the defendant lawyer for this defendant who's being accused. And it basically is a courtroom drama. It's like if you think about Few Good Men, but more kind of regal and more like what we would go through if you were in a jury. So it's basically a thriller. It's basically a drama that involves courtroom dramas and stuff like that. But it's once again about a juror who may or may not be involved with the murder that he's being, a juror with. So there you go. So whatever you think of Clint Eastwood, the guy makes a pretty decent profit, or at least somewhat of a profit, because his movies don't cost very much. Well, I mean, they cost like $30 million, but that's not very much. He goes under budget. He's very swift at making movies. But this movie seems to not want to be liked by Warner Brothers. Maybe it's something that I heard that Clint Eastwood agreed to. I don't possibly know. But this seems like the perfect movie to come out in the Thanksgiving time. The older folks will go see this movie. I mean, it's a very weird scenario that Juror number 2 is under at this point. But they sent out screeners for this movie. I was able to finally see it because I kind of wanted to, because I like Nicholas Hoult and I like Toni Collette. For my honest review of this movie, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's a very mid-level Clint Eastwood movie. And what I mean by that is you have to suspend disbelief quite a bit with the simple fact of who Nicholas Hoult is portraying in this movie. Because the odds of him getting put on a jury that may or may not pretend something that he's involved with, unless this is a really small town in Georgia, it's pretty low. I mean, to be fairly honest. I mean, the factors that you have to go into to have this happen to somebody is pretty crazy. I mean, it really is. And then on top of that, how the defense and the prosecution and all that stuff works out, it's very of that, My Cousin Vinny or that kind of scenario where you have to realize that this is a movie, that this isn't a really jury case. If you've ever been on a jury like I have, where it was a couple weeks, it's not like this. It's actually quite boring, to be fairly honest, with some really kind of crazy stuff that happens. But in my honest opinion, I think this movie is very serviceable. I think it's a very entertaining movie. I think Nicholas Holt's really good in this movie. I think Toni Collette's really good in this movie. It's just a kind of standard Clint Eastwood movie. It's very much what he's been doing for the last, 10, 15 years now, where it's not something that is going to garner a lot of Oscar buzz. This isn't like $1 Million Baby or Letters from Iwo Jima or Flags of Our Fathers. This is more in the kind of The Mule or anything of that nature that he's done in the last few years, where it's just a very entertaining movie, but it's just not a very good movie, to be fairly honest. And that's nothing wrong with that. It's just how I view this movie. I went in going, okay, as long as I'm entertained, that'll be fine. And once again, as long as you kind of suspend disbelief on what you're watching, I think you'll enjoy the movie for what it is. Once again, it is going to come to streaming. I have a feeling it's going to release right at Thanksgiving time, to be fairly honest, the way it's shaping up. So it'll give Max a chance for some kind of viewership, I guess you could say. But it really is a shame, because I think this could have made $30 or $40 million in the box office. I think it could have been a pretty decent success for Clint Eastwood, and maybe it would have made more. I don't know, but once again, I think everybody is serviceable. I think all the jurors are serviceable. I think there are things that happen with J.K. Simmons and Nicholas Hoult that are very serviceable, but I think in the end, having the movie go where it goes, having it be a Clint Eastwood movie, having it be from a writer who is literally their first time writing anything, which seems to be on Clint Eastwood's radar for some reason. It's really interesting, but this guy has written nothing. I think it's an entertaining movie. I don't think it's going to insult your intelligence. I just think you have to, once again, suspend disbelief. And I think, you know, the level of suspense and the level of like cat and mouse gaming that goes on in this movie is perfectly all right for what it's worth. It's not something you're going to put in your top 10 of the year. Maybe you will if you really truly love this movie. But I think in the end, I think it's a very entertaining movie. It does what it needs to do. It's not, you know, it doesn't go past anything it needs to do. It's, once again, you know, it stands mostly in the courtroom. It stands mostly in the jury box, in the jury room where they deliberate and stuff like that. They go to a couple places. Leslie Bibb's in this movie, which is kind of cool, which I really like her. But other than that, that's kind of it. That's kind of where I lean on Juror number 2. There's not really much else to say. That won't get into like the end of this movie, which I found kind of preposterous, but you know, it is what it is. So anyways, with that said, that's gonna be my take on Juror number 2, the latest and possibly last film, we'll see, for Clint Eastwood, who I think is like 93 right now. So I mean, I have more power to him. You know, he's a guy that does quite a bit more than I do. So there you go. Anyways, with that said, thank you so much for checking out my review for Juror number 2. I really appreciate it. Comments below. What is your favorite Clint Eastwood directorial effort? Like, what is your favorite movie he's directed? Is it something like $1 Million Baby or Unforgiven? You know, all that good stuff. So let me know in the comments. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.